Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Rip N Riff here on the Rip N Riff YouTube channel. That over there is at Mr. Jared Moore. I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. It's mid-March here. We are right. March Madness kicking off Thursday. Stanley Cup playoffs right around the corner. We're going to talk plenty of trade deadline today. Ton of NFL news on yesterday with signings and trades and all that good stuff. But at Mr. Jared Moore, how are we doing today?
Oh, we are doing good. It's Monday. The weather's finally starting to warm up a little bit here on the East Coast. I actually might crack the window after the show just to get that old stank of the winter out of here because, this office that I work in is very tiny and smells like farts. So we definitely want to get some fresh air in here.
You're probably overdue for some. We've got a jam-packed show today. We've got I Love Loosey. We got the starting lineup figure 5. We've both got Rip N Rants today. So we're going to jump right into it. Now, I didn't tell Jared I was going to do this before the show because I want his genuine reaction here. It's something I encountered this morning. Now, we all live in houses with various amounts of stuff in our fridge. And sometimes, the fridge gets full and you got to clear some stuff out. And in the process of doing that this morning, I encountered a very empty milk container. I was like trying to hear if there was any liquid in there. So, Jared, you see that there? I zoomed in and took a picture there. I want to know, what was my wife saving here?
It looks completely empty.
I mean, the light of the iPhone is reflecting off the bottom of the container here because that's the picture I took with it. So I'm just curious, what was my wife trying to save here?
I guess she just didn't realize the carton was empty when she put it away. But
the response I got was there was a sip or two left. It was what I got.
Was there though? It doesn't really look that way.
Listen, go ahead.
Look. Groceries are expensive now. I mean, that's it's the whole part of making America great again is making us pay more for everything, right? So it kind of is what it is. So if your wife's gonna try to save a couple sips of milk, I mean, I can't really blame her.
I mean, I appreciate the effort there, but the initial reaction was what I was looking for. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
No problem. I'm glad to deliver.
Thank you. Appreciate that's what we'll just edit it for that first part. Let's get to the pack ripping lineup here. Like I said, I want to move things along here today. Jam-packed show. We're going to do one football pack. We were going to do all hockey post trade deadline, but the amount of NFL news just kind of necessitates. So we'll try and talk about some of those teams as they come up. Looking for maybe a Marvin Harrison rookie in that 96 Pacific Crown collection, maybe a Keyshawn Johnson, Terrell Owens, Amani Toomer. You could see some of the insert parallel sets there. Then I'm going to be bringing back the 24-25 artifacts there. We did those a couple of weeks ago. Recently traded Logan Stankoven could be pulled today, a rookie card. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, he was part of the big trade right before the deadline to send Mikko Rantanen from Carolina to Dallas. And pretty good get there between him and 2 first-round picks and 2 third-round picks for a guy who clearly didn't want to stay in Carolina. That's not a bad return there. It's probably more than they gave up for him. I mean, they did give up Marty Netchus and Jack Drury, but I think I would rather have the Stankoven who you're going to have 5 years to control with him because he's still in his ELC and all those extra draft picks. I think it's a pretty good return for Carolina.
And the thing I said during the Slapshot podcast live trade deadline coverage with at Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Merez, is that if Carolina's lineup was lacking something, it was some young offensive punch that, can do everything and get in there, score goals, be a little bit, not to say like a menace, but just he's all over the place. He's fast, and that's exactly something they needed. So, yeah, it wasn't ideal. The 2-week stay with Rantanen in there could have gone better. But, in the end, could have been a lot worse. And who knows what they're going to do. They got plenty of first-round picks. I thought they were going to try and flip one of those for Brad Marchand. Florida ends up doing that with the second-round pick. That could become a first, if I recall correctly. But, we'll see what Carolina does at the draft because who knows if they're going to keep those picks or they're going to try and maybe move to get something.
Oh, I think they'll try to move them. There were reports that they were trying to move one of those picks, like you just said, like the Brad Marchand thing. I think they were probably in on some other stuff that just they couldn't make.
Brock Besser was another one I read that for whatever reason that fell through, which again tells you what they were looking for.
Yeah, and this will tie in with my Rip N Rant as well, so we can definitely get into that in a couple minutes.
All right, and then you have up on the screen there 2022-23 Allure there, and some decent rookies in that class too.
Yeah, we ripped open a different year of the Allure cards, and I love the look of these. So I figure we'll go a little more modern with 22, 23, and you see the rookies on the screen there. On there's some good ones there. Marchenko's having a great year. Matthew Boldy was a huge part of Team USA at the Four Nations. Wyatt Johnson,
On fire.
just got the bag, didn't he? Too, like 5 years,
Yeah.
8.4 million. So like he's going to be a big part of what the Dallas Stars are building going for. God, Dallas is so loaded, man. It must be nice to root for a team that drafts well and has no state income tax on salary, and they just get like all these awesome players that just sign with them.
Well, that's why he took a little less than reportedly what Colorado and Carolina were offering, was the whole state tax thing. And yeah, the Wyatt Johnson extension basically happened the second they made the deal with Carolina for Rantanen, because there was no way they were going to be able to keep both of those guys around long term. So they, once they got the guy, they got the piece out, they got one out, they could pay the other one. So
yep,
looking forward to some hockey cards today for sure. But we got to get going here with one of our segments we haven't done in a while. It's time to do a little Rip N Rant. It's time to kick things off on Rip N Riff with
my Rip N Rant.
Thanks, Dave. All right, so I'm going to do mine first because mine is not sports related. Jared's is hockey related. So we'll do that, and we'll open up some hockey cards. Maybe I'll open up my cards while he's, once we get a little bit into his. But over the weekend, the band Tool, they did a festival, kind of like a Tool in the Sand kind of fest in the Dominican Republic. It was basically, they were playing, it was a 3 nights, of shows in the sand. They're headlining for 2 nights. It was promised to be unique sets. That's an important detail. So, and Tool is, Tool fans are very devoted. It's very prog rock. Listen, if you're trying to impress a girl, maybe driving up and having Anima blasting on the car, speakers is not the way to do it. But very loyal fan base.
That's what type of girl, but yes.
Yeah, no, listen, the girls I was trying to pick up with, they'd be like, but anyway, so they go, and then, there's always debates. When you go see a show, you're always some people are going to love the set list, some people are going to hate the set list. But when you see a band on a tour, they play what they play, and that's it. Like, it's, maybe it's in support of a new album, so maybe there's more, new songs than you wanted to hear. But, bottom line is, you see them on tour, it's their show, and just be happy with what you get. But when you're doing a special event like this, where you're charging people $2,500 to $2,700 for a, hotel concert package, you're expecting, these are diehard loyal fans that are coming out, and they're expecting what I like to call a take-home moment from a concert. Like, oh, they haven't played that song in 10 years. That was really cool. Something that you can grab onto and be like, that was worth the money. So they're headlining 2 nights. The first night they play pretty much nothing but hits. Okay, fine, whatever. Next night they come out, they repeat a few songs, which another important detail was you couldn't buy a 1-night pass. So everybody that's there is going to both shows. So they repeat a few songs, and then they cut the set list short. Rumored because fans there were getting so angry with the lack of rarity. Again, when you see them on a given night on a tour, you get what you get. But you charge what you charge, and you have an event like that, a loyal fan is expecting something. Like I said, a song they haven't played in a while. Yeah, you're going to get some hits. They cut the set short, rumored to be because they were getting booed. Tool fans at a Tool event, Tool weekend, were booing because they were so disappointed. And apparently, that's the reason maybe the set got cut a little short on Sunday, or the second night, I should say. So and I know the term bootlicker is getting thrown around a lot lately. I was surprised by how many people in the Tool fan groups on social media and stuff like that were defending, oh, you're entitled, blah, blah, blah. You should be happy with what you get. They play what they play. That they've always been like that. It's I normally agree with that, but no. If you're advertising a special event for your fans, for the loyal diehards to come and rock out the Tool in the Sand on the weekend, you have to give them some sort of, you have to give them play eulogy, play one rarity over the course of the weekend. And you can to repeat songs is inexcusable if you know that everybody there, and they only repeated a couple. But when you see Tool, their songs are very long, so you're only going to get 10 to 12 songs in a set anyway. So repeating 2 songs is inexcusable. Repeating one's inexcusable. The amount of people defending it, it's shut the fuck up.
All right, I got a lot of thoughts here. First of all, Simpsons kind of predicted this with the whole, why would they come to our concert just to boo us?
Yes.
So there's that. I wanted to get the Simpsons reference out of the way early. No, I agree with you. The fact that they advertised unique set lists and then reneged on that is kind of crummy, especially you mentioned the prices that whatever they were charging for this festival, which is astronomical.
And that includes accommodations. It doesn't include airfare, but it included your hotel or whatever. So like it's still a pricey package to pay.
Right, but like for that much money, I would have just stayed home. Like go to hell. I'm not paying that much to go see a concert. But yes.
And that's the argument, is like, we're not talking about, even though concert tickets are crazy expensive for just your average tour stop in Houston or wherever. But like I said, you can like go on setlist.fm and know what set list you're probably going to get from it. When you're charging that amount of money for that kind of experience, like it has to be something more than basically the same pool of songs. Because like I said, if you go see them on tour, maybe you'll get 12-ish. They've had basically a pool of 20 songs that they've used over the last few years on tour. And that's basically what you got this weekend. It's like, so it's not like, oh, if I've seen Tool in the last 5 years, I didn't get anything new.
Yeah. Like I've been to a bunch of like Foo Fighter shows. I know you've been to a bunch of Metallica shows. So like, you know how those shows are. There's a lot of playing the hits, which you're going to get at any concert for those bands. And that's to be expected. And then you're probably going to get 2 or 3 songs off of whatever the newest album is at the time, which, fine. If you happen to like the newest album, I happen to think that some of the newer albums aren't very good, but that's neither here nor there. But to advertise like that, like it's just crummy. And I'm sure there's some fine print on the ticket that says like lineup or whatever, subject to change, but still it's pretty shitty to advertise that and just like and totally go back on it. So I completely agree with you there.
Well, I mean, you could get away with the term unique basically being as long as there's one different song, technically it's unique. You know what I mean? So like that's the like legal, I guess, wiggle out of that. Now, this is what I'll leave it on this. And I know every band's different and all that, but there were 2 years where Metallica put on their own festivals. The first year, they headlined both nights. They played the Black Album one night and the whole Ride the Lightning the other night. The second year they did it, they were only headlining one night. And I remember a lot, including myself and my buddy Sean, that we go to a lot of Metallica shows together. We were disappointed, like, oh, they're having their own festival again, but they're only going to headline one night. That's a little weak. And then we're watching Dropkick Murphys on the main stage day one. After one of the songs, he goes, by the way, in case you didn't know, Metallica's playing a surprise set under a fake band name under that stage over there. And they proceeded to play the entire Kill 'Em All album front to back. So the goal of an event like that is to leave the fans feeling stupid for doubting that you would do something cool to make it memorable, not to feel like they got ripped off. Because there was a gripe. If you're going to go to a festival and you're only going to see them one night, okay, like I can understand like being upset with that. But then, oh no, there they go and being Metallica again, doing something cool. Like that's what an event like that is supposed to be. Like I can come home saying I got to see that.
Right? Like
I can remember running full speed across the venue to get from the main stage to like the shitty third stage that they were playing on.
Right. And then we've been to plenty of festivals like that as well. I remember going to the Bamboozle at the Meadowlands and similar situation with the setup there. No, I completely agree with you. When the band advertises that they're going to do something that they don't normally do, you expect them to deliver. And I'll give you just a random example of a band that did deliver. I saw Gaslight Anthem down at Asbury Park like a couple years ago. They advertised they were going to play the 59 Sound in its entirety, which is probably their most famous album. So like not only did they do that, but they played all the hits before it and they played all the hits after it. So like it's not like it was the priciest concert ticket to begin with. I think I paid like $50 or whatever to go see it, but like you felt like you got your money's worth, which is what you're asking for a show like that.
And I understand you can't leave everybody happy. Like it's tough to please the new fans that are seeing you the first, second, third time versus somebody that's seeing you for like the 30th time. Yeah. But there is a way to do that within a set.
Well, the problem is too many people today are just entitled.
Oh,
but like I don't think this is a case where the people are wrong because they said they were what they were going to do and they went back. That's not like we should move on.
I agree. That's it. There's too many entitled people today, but this is not one of those cases where the complaints are out of entitlement. Now, let's talk NHL trade deadline here. Obviously, the Devils, that's your team. The Jack Hughes injury totally change their approach. They still went out and got the depth center that, you might have gotten anyway if things had been gone well, Cody Glass.
Hooray, Cody Glass. Although Cody Glass did score yesterday against the Flyers, so there you go. My Rip N Rant, the NHL GMs showed their ass this past week because we learned that a lot of them don't know what the hell they're doing. A lot of teams should be selling that weren't selling, and to make matters worse, they're handing out contract extensions. Like, what the hell was Buffalo doing last week with extending like Jordan Greenway and Jason Zucker? What's Utah doing with trying to with extending guys like Alex Kerfoot and Ian Cole? And like, look, I get in Utah's case, and I'll let you rebut in a second. I get in Utah's case. First year in a new market, they're trying to embrace their fan base, and they're like, well, we've traded enough guys for draft picks. But when you see like what some of these guys have went for at the deadline, and the prices were astronomically high this year for a bunch of randos, like Anthony Beauvillier
is not a second round
like on waivers like 3 years ago,
and
he's getting a second round pick. Like, if I'm an NHL owner and I see teams like not re-signing rando 30-year-old rentals when we're not making the playoffs, I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? And there's so many other teams that try to like straddle the trade deadline. Like the Rangers both bought and sold, and like
I can explain the Rangers, but
you could explain that, but like the Islanders want to re-sign Kyle Palmieri. Like, why? It was like you actually took a step in the right direction. You made a pretty good trade with Brock Nelson. You should go a lot further than that because the Islanders aren't going anywhere as a franchise. So Montreal extending Jake Evans rather than selling high on him. Like, just there's too many teams that just don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that's the problem. And because so many teams wound up either not selling or holding on to their guys, it screwed up the prices for the rest of the market.
Now, you mentioned 5 teams, so I'll run through them with you. Buffalo, I completely agree with you. I have no idea what they were doing at the deadline. The only theory that I have is the Arizona Coyotes moving to Utah. Now that franchise is actually trying to, at some point, be in the playoffs and be competitive. Maybe Buffalo is settling and sliding back into the Coyotes' old role of just being that mismanaged team that you can count on dumping out. Like, they're going to be like the, quadruple A team at the rest of the league. Maybe that's what they're going to do. They're going to fall into that role. That's what I think Buffalo is. Montreal, I think at some point with the young kids, you got to start, pushing in the direction of like, okay, we're not necessarily about draft pick and prospect management anymore. We're about starting to take that step. So like that, I can understand. The Isles, like you said, great move. Got a great haul from Colorado. I don't even necessarily like if you're going to keep Palmieri, that's fine, but you can't announce that you're keeping him with 5 hours left in the deadline, because even if that is your intention, which I don't agree with, what happens if somebody gets desperate at 2:55 p.m. Eastern time and says, hey, I'll give you a second round pick for Kyle Palmieri? Are you going to turn that down just because you really want to sign him? But now you're not going to get that call. If you announced 4 hours earlier, he's off the table. Now you're not even going to get that potential desperate pie in the sky, pay way too much for Palmieri offer. So like that, I didn't understand why they announced that out of the gate. Maybe Lou just didn't want to deal with trade calls all day anymore because he's an old man. I don't know. But like that to me was asinine. Even if you have, like I said, even if your intention is to keep him, leave the door open a crack for somebody to just blow you away with an offer to be like, all right, fine, I got to trade you. Sorry, Kyle. I can't turn that down. Utah, similar to Montreal, I think at some point you got to prove you're taking a step. A lot of guys got healthy recently. They're back in the lineup. That second wild card spot out west is still kind of up for grabs. It's Calgary's to lose, but St. Louis didn't deal Braden Shen. They could make a run at it. Utah got healthy. Maybe, sometimes signing those contract extensions is a good vibe in the locker room because, like it shows the rest of the team like, hey, we're starting to go in that direction. So I don't mind that. And then you said the Rangers. I think the moves they made are with an eye on next year with either, okay, we're going to have a full season with JT Miller and we'll have our new established lineup. Now Zibanejad's on the wing. They still have to find a third line center now, because you lose that with Zibanejad moving to the wing. I think they made moves with an eye on trying to maybe make one last push next year And if things still don't go great next year, they can sell off some of what they have left with what they acquired. Like the Carson Soucy one, I was like, but you know what? They're getting big on the blue line for whatever reason. Like the Rangers, I'm fine with what they did. They make the playoffs great. They're going to lose in 5 games anyway. So who cares?
Right. And like I could go even further with some of these teams. Like Nashville, Ryan O'Reilly's never going to have any more value than he has right now. That's a guy you probably should have moved.
Yes.
Chicago, like what the hell are you doing not moving Ryan Donato? Like what are we doing here? It's just a lot of teams with just questionable approaches. Like the Ducks, they did move Brian Dumoulin, but like could you have found a taker for like Ryan Strome? Could you have found a taker for Trevor Zegras? Yeah. Like, I don't know the answer to these questions, but
I mean, because at a certain point when the market is just like Strome, Shen for like your center, up front guys that can prove and maybe the offer wasn't good enough. I will say and against Utah, like Nick Bjugstad is a guy you easily could have gotten like maybe a 4th round pick for. Like,
but what's he doing for? So
I know.
Yeah. So it is what it is. All right. We got cards to rip.
Let's get cards, and we could talk about players and teams as they come up too.
Yep, we could definitely do that. We got Philip Grubauer with the Kraken. Kraken were busy. They made a really good trade, getting a couple firsts and a third for Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gord. So they did a good job at the deadline there.
I don't, and I know people said Tampa paid a lot, but they're in win now mode, and they basically got a 3rd line, which is what they needed. They needed to add a 3rd line, and that's what those 2 guys are going to very much provide.
Well, that's worked before for Tampa, trading a couple 1st-round picks at the deadline for a 3rd line with Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman. Let's see how that works out for him. It actually might work out really well, although I do still like Florida to come out of the East. A guy who the Canadians have been trying to trade for the last few years, Josh Anderson. Unfortunately, the problem there is he makes a lot of money and he's not very good. So, I'm not sorry. I mean, I wish the Habs would. This is a message for the Chris Morrises and everybody else who likes to carry water for the Montreal Canadiens. You can clip this and send it to them if you want. I'm a Devils fan. We do not want your crap in Josh Anderson. Stop trying to pitch random trades on Twitter for like Simone Nemec for Josh Anderson. It's not a thing. It's not going to happen. Like, just move on.
I'll text him the timestamp later on.
You do that. Let's see. Tomas Hertl with the San Jose Sharks here. Interesting how they cut this card. I don't even know what shape you would call that, but very nice card regardless.
And that is a Thomas Hertl last Sharks card.
That it would be, yes. Let's see. We have a color flow. Looks like a rookie card here with it doesn't say rookie on it, but it's got to be a rookie card, right? Matt Boldy, because he was part of that set.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a nice one. I love that.
Yeah.
Matt Boldy, a member of Team USA in the Four Nations Face-Off, a very good player for the Minnesota Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Wild, unfortunately, that division with Winnipeg getting tougher, Colorado adding, 2 centers down the middle, Dallas making the moves we talked about earlier, Minnesota they're still a playoff team, but they're going to have a very tough time getting out of the first round.
We have a Runways card here with Alexis Lafreniere with the Rangers. I'm not going to say I'm not surprised he didn't get moved to the deadline, but because obviously he just signed that contract extension. But I actually thought there was a chance the Rangers might turn around and flip him, especially when I saw those rumors late, I guess Thursday night or whatever it was, when there were those rumors they were going to trade for JJ Peterka. I was like, well, what would you have a value to give up for? It was like, well, Alexis Lafreniere might work. So
I think they're still hoping he can go back to where he was doing last season and maybe somehow get back to that form and build off it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's a guy who was probably just carried by Panarin last year, and he kind of is what he is. So we'll see. Ben Myers, rookie card with the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, they Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle down the middle. They made the deal with the Rangers, about a week ago with Lindgren and VC. I mean, if people talked about how depth was the problem in Colorado, not anymore.
No, it's not. And Colorado has been aggressive all year in addressing their issues. And and by the way, I want to, since you mentioned Tom Fitzgerald earlier, I do want to mention that, juxtapose that with what Colorado did. Remember last year when everybody was like, "Oh, you can't trade for a goalie early in the season. Nobody's available. Nobody trades goalies, whatnot." That was the excuse for everyone that wanted to carry water for Tom Fitzgerald for basically doing nothing until the trade deadline and throwing the season away. A real GM in Colorado decided, oh, wait a minute, this goaltending tandem of
Georgiev and a Noonan.
It's not it. And we're going to change this shit up by Christmas, and we're going to be better for it. How does that sound? So that's the difference between a GM that knows what the hell they're doing and Tom Fitzgerald. So
and listen, Blackwood and Wedgwood, you can win with that combo.
Oh yeah, the Devils did a lot of winning with that combo.
In Colorado, there's a different team in Colorado than what they had a few years ago.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not the biggest Mackenzie Blackwood fan. I feel like the clock's going to strike midnight there at some point, but
yeah, for sure.
But the point is, they went out and they addressed it. They didn't just sit on their hands for the better part of 3 months and wait until the deadline to do something.
And I know you're not a big Mike Greer guy, but he absolutely nailed that one on Blackwood. Blackwood had like a good week and a half run, and he was like, "Hey, Colorado, what's up?" You know, like he did very well on that one.
I thought Greer had a good deadline. Between that and I thought he did a good job with some of the other trades when they traded Nico Strum and Fabian Zetterlund. I was surprised was even on the market. That's one the Tom Fitzgerald probably should have been on for a second round pick and some other stuff. But we have Jake Gensel with the Penguins, and the Penguins continued their retool and sell, and we have Tanner Jeannot with the Nashville Predators, who was famously traded at the deadline for a whole bunch of stuff, and also a guy accused of sexual assault. So
we'll throw that card out.
No, we don't have to throw the Tanner Jeannot card out because I was throwing the empty pack out. I'm not going to throw Tanner Jeannot out because of association with Calfoot, but
just to go back to Greer for a second, the Zetterlund one.
I got two more packs. So
go ahead.
No. Go ahead with Greer.
So with Zetterlund, I was a little surprised at that one, but apparently what Zetterlund was asking for was not what they wanted to pay. So he just said, "Okay, we got to do what we got to do." He didn't abandon the plan and didn't and I like the way Zetterlund plays, and at some point you got to start keeping guys around. Maybe next year is that point, but I didn't mind it.
Andrei Vasilevsky with the Lightning. We already talked about the Lightning's moves, so we can move on there. Guy who got dealt at the trade deadline, Casey Middlestat, who went to Boston in that aforementioned Charlie Coyle trade. Would have been nice if Tom Fitzgerald had made a phone call on Casey Middlestat because he needs another center, but that's neither here nor there. As you can tell, I'm really peeved at Tom Fitzgerald. Ante Kopitar with the LA Kings. Very nice insert card there. We got another color flow card here with one-time Hart Trophy winner Taylor Hall here with the Boston Bruins.
I like that Bruins jersey.
Another very nice card here. Alex DeBrincat with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Back.
Another Chicago Blackhawk. Career hasn't really worked out so far. Rookie card, Lucas Reichel.
Yeah, Chicago probably could have been a little more active at the deadline. Maybe Connor Murphy could have got flipped, as a depth defenseman too.
I feel like Chicago made their big move when they got rid of Taylor Hall. Let's see, Matt Duchene with the Predators. Duchene now part of Dallas, so good stuff there. And we mentioned the Brock Nelson trade as well, so we're all set there. One more pack to go through.
Sweet. I never have enough of these hockey cards. I thought it was a good trade deadline overall. It had the right move. It had a good amount of movement. There was a decent amount of stuff leading up to the actual deadline the week of, and it didn't rob too much from the deadline. But yeah, that's where I would take that every year.
You saw which teams are serious about winning a championship, and you saw which ones are just like, yeah, we're going to tinker around the edges.
Yeah,
like Florida, Colorado, Tampa,
Dallas.
Even though Vegas didn't do anything, Vegas gets a pass just because they do something every year. Well, Vegas did make the Riley Smith trade, but that was basically all they did. But those are the teams that they're always in the mix of the deadline. They're serious about contending for championships. Victor Hedman with the Lightning. Tom Wilson with the Capitals. We mentioned the Beauvillier trade already, so we don't have to go any further on that. Alex Vlasic rookie card. That's a solid pull there. He's one of the more promising young players in the Blackhawks, and they've extended him as well. We also get a color flow Alex Vlasic card. So somebody here at Upper Deck decided, hey, let's load up Alex Vlasic here. We got an autographed rookie card, which is nice. The problem is it's Lucas Reichel. He's back again.
I mean, that's still, you got to protect that because you never know. A guy, all of a sudden takes off. Now you got to flip that on eBay immediately. Got to have that ready to go.
But it's cool. We get an autographed card nonetheless. Hayden Hodgson rookie card with the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers did a nice job overall selling off some of their pieces, getting a first-round pick for Scott Lawton. Freddie Anderson with the Carolina Hurricanes. We already mentioned the Mikko Rantanen trade.
They also got Kuzmenko over to LA Philly too, which I thought was a good move.
And here's my candidate of the guy who's going to get the biggest overpaid bag this summer at the NHL free agency. Sam Bennett with the Florida Panthers. I don't know where he's going to wind up being, but he is the right combination of contributes but doesn't contribute that much. Like, he's basically like a 40 to 45 point guy, but he's a playoff player. He's a shithead. He brings rings to the room, like all that sort of guy. Like, that's the type of guy that the 200 hockey men fall over themselves to try to sign. So which means he'll probably be like a Devil or something, or a Ranger.
So we all enjoy a good Simpsons reference, the old tap the sign one on the bus. If I am Sam Bennett's agent, I get Chandler Stevenson's contract out, and that's the sign, and be like, that's what we have to beat that right there. That's where we have to start. Because if Chandler Stevenson's getting what, 7 and change, Sam, and listen, somebody's gonna have to. And listen, I get what Sam Bennett brings to the lineup. Every championship team needs a guy like that in their lineup. He's gonna get overpaid, but yeah, that's where you got to start. Is like, okay, if Chandler Stevenson's getting that, then I got to get more than that.
And you know what? Rising cap, wouldn't be surprised if it was 7.5, 8 million times 7. So, also wouldn't be surprised if he actually took a little bit less and just stayed in Florida, because it's a really good situation and they have enough cap space to make it work.
And that's the thing. That's the other side of it. Is like Florida's bit like, I know Bobrovsky's getting older, but they're going to compete for at least another year or two. Like, they're not going to fall off the cliff next year.
Well, that was the underrated thing with Florida did this deadline. Like, yeah, they made the Seth Jones trade, and Seth Jones, for me, take it or leave it. I don't think he's very good at this point, but I thought it was interesting that they traded for Seth Jones and his contract, because it probably means they're not going to re-sign Aaron Ekblad, and B, that they managed to shed the Spencer Knight contract in that trade as well.
Which I love that move for Chicago, because now, like, one of the things I had asked on a recent Total Hockey Now is, whose career would you rather have for the next 10 years, Bedard or Celebrini? And one of the arguments for Celebrini is there's a plan in San Jose. They have their goalie. They have Chicago. It's like, what is their plan besides Bedard? They didn't even have a goalie. And then lo and behold, a couple of days later, they go out and get Spencer Knight. Now you got your goalie. Now you know who the guy is going to be. So
right.
Good for them.
Now we'll see if he can deliver, and I think it's pretty telling that Florida didn't have any time for him when their starting goaltender is making $10 million a year, and he's 36 years old. But we'll see how that works out.
And the reason I think they go and got Seth Jones is because they've been missing Montour since he left for Seattle, so I feel like they got to plug that hole. And speaking of Chandler Stevenson, without further ado, right out of the pack with the parallel there.
Yeah, really bad contract. I mean, good for Chandler for securing the bag there with the Kraken, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot of centers who, when they hit free agency, they're gonna be like, I got to get more than that guy. Like you said.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like he got the bag, and good for him, but yeah, he I don't know if he was really worth it. Speak of the devil, Seth Jones. You know what I really wish would come out of this next pack is a nice check from Upper Deck for like $1,000. Let's see if that's
oh man, if Spencer Knight's in this pack, I might just walk off the set.
All right, so we got Brendan Gallagher. So far we're okay. We talked about the Canadians, the Canucks, Connor Garland there. They're kind of like the Rangers in the sense where this season you have to just write it off, and then you see what happens next year, because and the same thing with the Bruins too, although I think they're very much in decline mode. Like, it's Elias Pettersson's team now, and he needs to like man up and figure it out next year. And Patrick Laine.
I think it's embarrassing for the Canucks that the Calgary Flames are in a playoff spot right now, and they're not.
Yes, I would agree with that 1,000,000%. There is no reason they should. And listen, Calgary's playing well, but
Calgary doesn't have nearly as much talent as Vancouver does.
No, absolutely. So that was the first pack of artifacts. Let's see if there's a Spencer Knight in here somewhere. All right, so we go back to the Golden Knights here. We got Alex Pietrangelo. Like you said, minimal deadline for Vegas. We're still waiting for that long-term IR from Mark Stone at some point. He's actually made it pretty far into the season. Kudos to him.
I was stunned that they didn't get Marchand. Like Marchand to Florida, like I guess is that makes as much sense as anyone if Vegas wasn't going to get him. I was convinced like 3 months ago that Vegas was getting Marchand, and then when the Shea Theodore injury happened, they had the LTIR space to play with. I was like, all right, this is a lock.
Yeah, they are right now. I know they got smacked around by the Kings last night. They kept up, but that's going to be an interesting second round matchup because I have no faith in the Edmonton Oilers getting out of the first round right now. We got Brent Burns here with the Hurricanes. So they're probably the clear-cut second best team in the Metropolitan this spring, at least.
Yeah, I would say so.
And one thing I want to say in Tom Fitzgerald's defense is, and I know you weren't happy with the way he handled the deadline, and maybe he's got to learn how to adapt on the fly better, but his plan changed literally, 24 hours before the deadline, 36 hours before the deadline with Hughes. So
look, I get there was no good route for them to take once Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton too, for that matter. Once they both got hurt, I get there was no good route to take. That said, like he's quoted back in December, it's like, I know exactly what this team needs. That we need a center, we need a scoring winger, we need blah 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 blah. And he sat on his hands for 3 months. So like I don't feel bad for Tom Fitzgerald that like the Devils spent the better part of the early portion of 2025 losing hockey games, and he just sat on his hands. The term "fuck around and find out." Tom Fitzgerald fucked around and he found out.
One guy that was not happy at the trade deadline, probably Josh Norris, going from a potential playoff bound team with his buddy Brady Tkachuk to home of the Buffalo Bills and the recently extended Josh Allen.
Kind of a classic change of scenery trade there with him and Cousins going for each other. I was surprised that was the Dylan Cousins trade, but I guess I shouldn't be, because Buffalo had said all along that, well, we didn't really want futures. We wanted an NHL player, and Josh Norris is certainly that.
I got 2 more in this pack and then 1 more pack to go of 5. We got Troy Terry in a good-looking Ducks jersey there. He's been producing for the Anaheim this year. He's been one of their steady sources. They've been playing better lately, too.
Yeah, they've done a good job of late.
And our last card in the pack, one of the only guys on the Rangers upholding his contract, Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, he's been worth every penny. $11.6 million, and we're starting to get near the end of that contract, and he's basically been good like throughout the life of it, and getting better as he's getting older.
Yeah, it would be awesome if I don't know, maybe something could happen with that. It would be worth it. No, another guy that got traded. This was a good pack to do today, Brock Nelson.
Yeah, Brock Nelson's been a popular name today in these packs.
So we got Brock. I will say that when we ripped this hobby box last time, we got all the good stuff out of it. It's been nothing but base except for that one Chandler Stevenson parallel. We got Moritz Seider here with the Red Wings. They make some minor moves. They trade Veleno and get Peter Mrazek and Craig Smith. See what that does for them there. They weren't.
I wonder what the look on Steve Yzerman's face was when Mike Grier turned Jake Wallman into a first-round pick. Because if you remember, Steve Yzerman traded a second-round pick just to get rid of Jake Wallman.
And again, Mike Grier. When Mike Grier has his TED Talk on how to rebuild an NHL franchise, I'm 1,000% going. I am not missing that. I am going to be in person for that. Anders Lee, Islanders, one of their last top players at this point.
Yeah, it's always fun when Lou Lamoriello's one day he's being quoted, well, I know we got to get younger and faster, and then the next day it's like, the Kyle Palmieri extension is basically done. It's probably sitting in his drawer. We'll hear what the terms are in September.
Probably. We got Clayton Keller here, pictured as a Coyote, but part of the Utah Hockey Club there. Utah hopefully next year can be in the playoff mix.
Hopefully not, and they actually sell some of their pieces at the deadline.
That would be nice. And then last but not least, a guy that some people thought would go, but let's face it, that contract was just too immovable, Erik Karlsson.
Maybe this offseason. if the Penguins are willing to eat half of it, I'm sure they could find somebody to take him for $5 million for the last 2 years of that deal or whatever it is. But like Eric Carlson, you're going to get it's all offense, no defense.
Yep. And like you said, a deal that's going to require that kind of contract to be moved probably happens at the draft when teams have a little more flexibility to figure stuff out. So there we go. So we did plenty of hockey today. That's the trade deadline recap here. Now we're going to do some Pacific Crown football. A lot of NFL news yesterday. A lot of player movement here right in advance of free agency. We got Devontae Adams going to the Rams. We got DK Metcalf getting traded to the Steelers. We had Aaron Jones re-signs in Minnesota. Josh Allen gets the record extension. Because not a record extension. Myles Garrett's the one that got the record extension for a non-quarterback. Like busy day.
Yeah, there might be more stuff. We have no idea because it looks like Twitter's actually back up now. So we'll see if there's anything interesting here. While you're scrolling through it, I'll scroll through Adam Schefter's Twitter feed.
All right. So we're doing some 1996 Pacific Crown football. Found this in a pack in the box over at the store in Roanoke Park I go to. We do have some bricking in this pack, so you'll hear some stuff coming off. We got Eric Turner here. Quality defensive back for the Cleveland Browns back in his day. Let's see here. This pack got ripped pretty good. That's what happens when they're 30 years old about.
Khalil Mack back with the Chargers.
Saw that this morning.
Fully guaranteed.
One of the best guards of, I would say, potentially of all time, Will Shields.
And you mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs. They just signed a new offensive lineman. Let me see if I can find that one. Let's see. The Kansas City Chiefs have a new blindside protector. Where the fuck is it? I don't know. I can't find it.
We have a parallel rookie card here, but it's not of somebody we want. This is Reggie Brown of the Seahawks, who was a fullback back in the day. Good looking parallel. Good.
Fullback. The Chiefs signed Jalen Moore, former 49ers offensive lineman. So I guess he'll be the new left tackle for Kansas City. Tampa Bay re-signed Chris Godwin. Tampa Bay also signed Hassan Reddick.
I thought New England signed it. Oh no, I'm thinking of Harold Landry. I'm sorry, which I'm a big fan of that move.
Yeah, you're thinking of Harold Landry. The Falcons. The Bears signed Drew Dalman from the Falcons, their center. So the Bears continue rebuilding their offensive line. Javon Kinlaw is now with the Washington Commanders. The Rams brought back Jimmy Garoppolo.
I could see that. All right.
Giants signed cornerback Paulson Adebo from the Saints.
It's a good signing for them. He's a good cornerback here. We got another. Go ahead.
And the Patriots signed Carlton Davis.
Okay. So definitely some good moves there for to discuss and look at NFL free agency. The NHL Trade Deadline, NFL free agency being to end a week to start a week. That's some good timing right there. We got Derek Walker from the Chiefs, not Ryan Tannehill, but Steve Tannehill. I don't think any relation there due to the last name spelling.
No, that's how Doggy pronounces it though. He's like Tannehill.
Love Chris. Let's see. We got Chester McLaughlin here. He was a good pass rusher for the Raiders back in the mid-'90s, late '90s.
Looks like Milton Williams is going to sign with the Panthers, by the way. He had a huge game in the Super Bowl for the Eagles. So
he's a good
Eagles can't keep everyone, but
yeah, and he's a good defensive tackle. And they've been drafting along the defense anyway, so they've got replenishments. Not Dante Culpepper, but Brad Culpepper. Let's see here. We got a few more to go here. We got legendary kicker for the Lions, Jason Hanson. One of the few reliable bright spots for that franchise when things were bad.
Boy, Jason Hanson kicked forever for the Lions. It feels like it wasn't that long ago he retired. I mean, it was probably somewhere in the late 2000s would be my guess, because Prater was their kicker for a bunch of years after Jason Hanson. They probably went through some other guys as well that I'm not thinking of right now.
Now, I do love the look of these cards with the gold embossment on the bottom. Now, this is not a special player. I do remember him. He's a good player in his day. I just love this photo, though. Marvin Washington getting ready to block a field goal or an extra point, it looks like there. It's a cool shot.
That's a really cool shot. I like that.
That card's worth nothing, but it's still going to go in a penny sleeve. Okay. Let's see here. I got a Mark Tuanay card. A little story here. His brother is my uncle-in-law. So yeah, there you go. So 6 degrees of separation from the late great Mark Tuinei. His brother, who played for the Lions briefly in the NFL, Tom Tuinei, great guy. Shout out Tom over there in Hawaii. Yeah. So I'm like loosely by marriage related to Mark Tuinei. How about
that?
And we closed the pack with 2 quarterbacks. We got Elvis Gerback, pictured there with the 49ers, also played with the Chiefs. And last but not least, a quarterback from Jared Moore's giant fan youth rooting, Kerry Collins, pictured with the Panthers there.
Hey, Kerry Collins was a good Giant. He took him to the Super Bowl, so
he was a decent quarterback. I know he had his issues and stuff, but he was pretty solid.
He did a good job.
All right, so there we go. We're there's our 3 pack rips for today. That was fun. Well, now it's time for pulls of the day, and I don't really have much. I mean, I had nothing but base cards. Really, I had a couple of parallels that were not great. So I'm going to defer to one of your pulls from the Upper Deck Allure because you had a couple of good ones there.
Yeah, I did. Even though the player itself isn't notable, I think I had to go with the autograph rookie card by Lucas Reichel. Hopefully Lucas Reichel figures it out, whether it's with the Blackhawks or somebody else. But anytime you pull an autograph card, it's a cool little piece of memorabilia. So
it's like me with the Blake Corum card, right? Rookie card last week with the autograph there, the absolute.
I feel like Blake Corum is more of a chance than Lucas Reichel at this point, but we shall see.
We shall see. So there you go. There's pulls of the day. Before we get to the starting lineup, figure 5, you had a couple of I Love Loosies, I believe you wanted to show off.
Oh, yeah, I got a couple real quick. You want to play the video or not?
There's the answer to your question.
All right, there we go. Yeah, since we mentioned some of the weird cards last week with those triangle pizza sliced shaped cards for the depth of winter in that NHL series. Went on Twitter, went on the old eBay machine, and saw there were a couple devils there. So I picked up Timo Meyer, and I picked up Luke Hughes rookie card as well. As far as I know, those are the only 2 devils they have in the set. There might be some others, but
and you bought those while we were on the air, if I'm not mistaken.
Bought them while we were on the air, yeah. So they came in over the weekend. So I figured we show off those Loosies there.
I love a good I Love Loosey. I'm going to have to bring some to the table next week. I've got some coming in the mail too, I believe. So we'll have to take a look at that. Now, we close every episode of Rip N Riff. Yeah, there's the brain fart there.
Yeah, do you remember what the show was called? The show that we've only done together for like 75 times?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. Brain fart. We close every episode with a starting lineup figure 5 guessing game. Why would we do this one any different? It is spring training. We haven't really talked any baseball today. So we're going to do a baseball figure 5 here on Rip N Riff. And with that, know the drill, Jared.
Is this player a pitcher?
Yes.
This is going to be a very specific question. Did this pitcher ever undergo Tommy John surgery? You might have to hit the Google machine for that one.
Yeah, I will have to undergo that. I don't think he did. I understand why your brain might go that way because of the Garrett Cole news, which now I'm not. I got 5 keepers in my 1 baseball league. I'm not keeping him. He used to be a lock. But can't do that this year. He actually, I mean, this is not going to help you guess him, but yes, he did go under Tommy John surgery in 2002. I learned something today.
How about that? Is this player in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
No, but he's a 4-time All-Star, but not somebody you would think of in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Since we mentioned pitcher, did this pitcher ever win a Cy Young award?
He won 2 Rolaids Relief Awards, but no Cy Youngs. I believe you have one more question left.
I do. All right, so this is a pitcher who has undergone Tommy John surgery and has never won a Cy Young award, but he's won a Rolaids Relief.
2 Rolaids.
What was the other? 2 Rolaids Relief. What was the other question I asked?
Yeah, pitcher in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
So,
yeah, yes, he was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And he's not in the Hall of Fame. All right,
No,
so
definitely not.
there we go. I'm trying to think of like relievers in that era that were really good, but like not good enough to go into the Hall of Fame. And I have a lean right now. Did this player ever pitch for the San Francisco Giants?
I don't believe so. No, he did not.
Ah, damn it. All right.
All right,
Then,
so this is a little bit of an obscure one. So I'm going to give you two hints here. One, he's kind of like a New York, I don't want to say legend, but like he's a guy that was revered by his team's fan base during his era. Remembered fondly. So that I'll give you that. I feel like if I give you the teams he played on, that's going to probably lean it too much.
probably.
So how about this? One team you'll for sure get it. So I'll give you his two other teams. The Reds, and he had a cup of coffee that you don't remember with the Houston Astros, but you might remember him as a Red prior to his other team.
Reds. Oh, geez.
You probably would not remember him as a Red, but he did play there for 6 seasons before going to this other team. Relief pitcher, not a Hall of Famer, kind of beloved by his fan base in New York. 2 Rolaids Relief Awards.
It's got to be somebody that was on those Yankee teams, but like, when the hell do you ever win a Rolaids Relief Award? That's the thing. I'm going to be way off base here, so I'm just going to throw a pie in the sky guess. Is it Danny Graves?
That is the first time somebody has mentioned Danny Graves' names in probably about 15 to 20 years. But no, it is not him.
It's not right.
John Franco.
See, I have no recollection of John Franco pitching anywhere other than the Mets. That's the problem. You're right that he's revered by the Mets. You're right that, like, with everything you said there. And, yeah, I'm sure he won a couple of Rolaids Relief Awards while he was with the Mets. But, like, I have zero recollection of him playing anywhere other than there. No, when you said he was sort of revered by his team's fan base, for a second I was like, did the Yankee fans really revere Tom Gordon when he was like here for that year and a half or whatever it was?
I mean, Flash is a cool nickname. I don't care. I know it's off the TV character, but still, Flash Gordon. He was a good pitcher. I enjoyed when Flash Gordon was here.
And then you mentioned some of those other teams. I was like, Mike Stanton didn't pitch for the fucking Reds, did he? Like, I can't remember that. Like,
so Franco actually led the league in saves 3 times in 1988 with the Reds, and then in 1990 with the Mets, and 94 with the Mets, 39, 33, and 30 respectively.
Yeah, and my San Francisco guess for a second I thought it was Rob Nen.
That's also that was a good one too, Rob Nen. I remember he was a hell of a closer. But yeah, so John
and I figured Rob Nen would have a starting lineup figure as well.
I don't know if he does. I'll have to look that up. I don't believe I've seen one come across in all my starting lineup encounters, we'll say. But he will not be joined. John Franco will not be a part of the starting lineup figure 5. Who is though this week? Ray Bourque got out of the box last week, so I figured let's do big NHL trade deadline movers of yesteryear. Brian Leach got dealt at the 2004 trade deadline to the Toronto Maple Leafs. You see him there on the right next to Ray Bourque, the 98 and 93 editions. Love that red stick for Leach on that one. Brendan Shanahan got moved from the Whalers to the Red Wings at the 96 trade deadline. And on the left there, Chris Pronger, a huge trade deadline acquisition for the Anaheim Ducks the year they went and got the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, those are some of the biggest names in hockey history who moved to the deadline. So, I would say just about all of them, except for Brian Leach, worked out for their new team.
Yeah, I mean, Bourque got his cup. Shanahan went on to win a couple in Detroit. Pronger went on to win the cup with the Ducks that year. He got to a final with the Oilers. He got to a final with the Flyers, but Yeah, I mean, those guys all worked in. There was a couple other ones. Patrick Waugh got moved at the deadline. Gretzky wasn't officially moved at the deadline the year he got traded to St. Louis. It was like a couple of weeks before the deadline, so that's why he was not in there. But yeah, I figured that was a fun little theme there with the Ray Bork. But that pretty much does it here for this edition of Rip N Riff. Jared, what do you got coming up on? Let's start with the little hockey here. What do you got coming up with allaboutthejersey.com?
Well, if you want to read my piece last week, where I talked about the conundrum that Tom Fitzgerald sort of faced going to the deadline and how there was no good options, that piece is still up there. This week, I will be writing about the dead weight that the Devils need to get rid of over the summer one way or another, because like I know he scored a goal yesterday, but like Eric Hall has been a net negative for this team, and it's about time like they got to get rid of both him and Andre Palat and just use that $9 million somewhere else, because they just need better players in the middle six than those guys at this point of their careers.
That should be some good reading, allaboutthejersey.com or at AAT Jersey blog. And then Jared Moore Poker, I know you got some stuff cooking up there.
Yeah, we'll work on some more shorts. And since I'm going to be heading up to Turning Stone this weekend for the WSOP circuit up there, I got a good reception for the last time I did like a drive up vlog. So I think I'm going to do that again on during the drive up there. Just going to attach the camera to the bill of the cap and just sort of ramble on for 20 or 30 minutes while I'm driving up the New York State Thruway. And hopefully no cop sees me and pulls me over and asks, "What the hell are you doing?"
It's a Jared Moore Poker on the Parkway edition there coming up for you this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That, and then Total Hockey Now will be back as usual on Thursday. Last week was Trade Deadline preview. This week we'll get back to more of our traditional format. We'll preview the Thursday lineup in the back half of the show. First half of the show, we're going to take a look at some updated divisional futures and things like that post-Trade Deadline, so that'll be fun. But that's going to do it for this edition of Rip N Riff. And next week, we will be potentially with you on Monday. All depends on how things go with the scheduling for Mr. Jared Moore over there up at the Turning Stone. Otherwise, maybe we'll come to you later next week. If Jared can't make it, maybe I'll rip a tin of Upper Deck Series 1 I got sitting in my drawer that's burning a hole. We'll figure out how it all goes. But for Mr. Jared, we'll see.
Who knows?
We're not going to know ourselves till sometime Sunday night, Monday morning. So there we go. So we'll be back with you sometime next week on Rip N Riff here on the RipNRiff YouTube channel. For Mr. Jared Moore, I'm at Puck and Thoughts. Thanks as always for watching. Back with you next week.